Hey guys, my name is Girish, your host for today for Back to Basics, another Back to Basics on another week. So guys, today we are going to be talking about socks. Socks with the X or CK. You tell me, let's decide that towards the end of the episode. But there's some few phrases that we have actually come up with for socks, right? Get your socks on, pull your socks up, and there's other ones too, knock your socks up. There's a big one that I have. Pull your socks up. There's no extracted reason behind this phrase. So there's no reason. But that's what we say, something like we say break your leg. So it's like another phrase I should say, for socks. Well, socks might be a boring topic, and we'll get into that as to why is it so interesting in this episode. And this person that I spoke with like a couple of weeks back, maybe 3 weeks back, but it looks like the way we're speaking, I'm telling you guys, it seems like a cliche for me and to you, but I swear to God, I speak with every guest of mine and I swear to God, they have been friends with me even till today. So believe me, when I say that I've met her and I'm still talking to her as a friend, and we share notes for future and for current what we're doing today. So guys, her name is Lisa Riggs, and my name is Girish Bali, the host for Back to Basics. So guys, let's talk to Lisa. Lisa, how are you doing today?
I'm good, thanks. Thanks so much for having me on the show. It's such an honor.
Yeah, absolutely. Actually, the honor is all mine. So Lisa, before we get into the sock business, what do you think of Back to Basics, and what does Back to Basics means to you? What is your Back to Basic moment?
Back to basics, I think, is so timely right now with what the world is continuing to go through and has gone through the past year,
Yeah.
over a year. And I think just kind of we, at least I know for myself, I was on this treadmill of a rat race and it was always more and more and more, right? And when we went into a shutdown, it forced me to really evaluate what was important in my life. What are the basics? What do we need? We need our family. We need a roof over our head, And so I think your podcast with Back to Basics and just reminding us that some of those basic things that we take them for granted, right?
Yes.
Often, and not taking that for granted and valuing that and having that be a focus of your life, I think can be very beneficial.
But Lisa, it's a shame that we have to come to this point of time in your life to think that we have to go back to basics. Don't you think that we should have done that for years before this?
Oh, absolutely. 100%.
So
And it's a shame that a global pandemic like that is what had to happen for this realization for not only me, I think a lot of people.
yeah, absolutely. And some people doing great after the pandemic, meaning a reboot. Some people are still going through the depression phase, but at the end of the day, we have to look that everything in life goes back to basics, and that's what this whole thing is all about. That's my show. That's my motto, and I still feel that. So, Lisa, thank you again for coming. So, let's talk about your business here. It's called Spirit Sox with the
Mhm.
X. So, explain the name, how that came up, and then we'll go through the basics of that.
It's actually Spirit Sox USA, so we got the USA at the end.
Okay.
I think I've made it socks just to be unique, because what we do with the socks is we customize every single sock uniquely for our customers. So we're not going to be, the storefront where you can go in and you can get a unicorn eating ice cream socks. We can make those for you, but more importantly, we're focused on our customers and designing something specifically for them. And so I think that's kind of where the X comes in, just making it, just pointing out that it's unique from the very beginning.
Yeah, yeah. So Lisa, uh, so you started this whole fundraising thing for moms, right? Now, we'll get into the community of mom of how that whole thing happens, but the topic for today is fundraising. And when we say fundraising or donation, it's pretty much the same thing. It's a stigma that we come up with in our back of our minds that, you know what, I don't think I want to give money to Girish, Lisa, John, Dick, and Harry. It seems like we're giving money away. So, how do we get away from that stigma? What do we need to do?
It's a good question because it's difficult when, there's so many different organizations and people out there that are fundraising. The percentage has got to be the percentage of the population that is actually conducting fundraisers is probably very high. So I think part of the stigma comes with people feeling like somebody always has their hand out. They're always asking you for money. I mean, every day in the mail, I feel like I get something from another organization asking me to support them and for money. And most all of them have very good causes. And and so I think one of the ways I work with my customers to get away from the stigma is well, by offering the socks as a donation incentive. So when you do donate money to them, you get a free pair of socks, right? And so people like free stuff. And the other thing too is the socks then are customized to match this organization that they care enough about to donate to. So you kind of get the whole pride thing, and it's an ongoing relationship with that
Mm.
organization. But I think too for fundraising, it's just important not to ask for the money. It's important for the consumer to understand the cause, the benefits that it's going to be. And thankfully, I feel like there's enough people on this planet that we certainly can. There's enough of us where everybody can have an audience without all of us having to give to everybody. Like every group, every organization, there's enough people where we can have our audience without overtaxing them and without having it be a problem.
So, for example, Lisa, let's say hypothetically, here's a scenario that you have a Lisa Foundation, and you have a Girish Foundation, and then you have a GoFund. Now, nobody knows Girish and nobody knows Lisa, but a lot of people they know GoFunding. So, do you think it's a stigma that people they go to bigger companies or bigger organization versus just individual between, let's say, you and me?
Well, GoFundMe is a really, it's just a very simple way for somebody to donate money
Well, I
and
mean that's
support.
just an example, but
Yeah.
yeah,
But I think part of that too is the simplicity of somebody doesn't have to think. They see the story on the news and they say, oh yes, I definitely want to support that family. And they hit the GoFundMe. Whereas they would have to learn more about you or I to understand that. And so again, I think a lot of it is about building your organization, building your audience with your fundraiser in order to make that successful.
mm,
And just finding those people who are in alignment with you, who are in sync and who care about your cause. And I think too, making sure that as much of their money goes back to the actual cause.
mm,
We know there's a lot of nonprofits out there that, 90% of the funds you donate go to their operating costs. Well, that's not great for fundraising, and that gives fundraising a bad name. And so making sure that as much of that can go back into the organization and improving it. And most all of these organizations are trying to make the world a better place.
yeah,
And we all support that.
so
But they need the help with the wallet to make it happen.
yeah, so throughout this episode, I'm gonna be giving your and my name as a examples because people they have to understand that let's say companies like yours and mine, and we're asking for money, um, we can mail out mailers, we can send out emails, and I guess nowadays social media. Now the question is that all these three medias there's no best way. People will read it, people will not, or trash it. So how do we fight that, or do we come up with an event? And some people they do, right? Some people they have like a amusement park, or some people they have like I don't know, a bingo dance, like those type of things. So what do you think?
Yeah, that's a good question because even I think we've all heard this, the marketing mantra of it takes 5 to 8 touches to follow up with someone to get them to respond to you or to get even close to having a conversation about a sale, right? A
Right,
product.
right.
And what I'm hearing now is it's actually 16 to 20 touches because we are all so inundated with email and social media and it's just we're inundated and so it takes that many more touches. And so as a fundraising organization, keeping that in mind and not being one more thing to inundate. So how do you get through to them? So I would hope for the organization, if you have a mailing list that you're sending regular newsletters to, you've developed this audience. I think that is a huge, that would be my main piece of where to go is to start with your audience already, start with your mailing list. Having an event is a great way to pull people in when it's allowed, when we can meet in person, but definitely having an event virtual or actually in person, I should say. That helps too, because again, I think some of the fundraising piece, you do need to offer something back to people other than them just giving you money. And so if they had fun, or if they're able to contribute in different ways, or they get a pair of socks, like that was part of the whole thought behind, for me, behind starting this company, was fundraising is hard.
Yeah.
How can we make it easier on the organizations, and how can we motivate people to continue to give to organizations that they care about?
So let's say here's a scenario that uh, it really makes me think for many years. Now just think about this, and um, let's say um, there's a cancer organization that I want to donate to. Okay. Now, why should I do that? I don't have cancer. But here's a twist. Now I got cancer, and now I want to donate to the Cancer Foundation. These are many people, many examples. Like, I don't have less, I need blood, and there's no donation. But before, I never did anything for donating blood. So, how do we get away from that stigma?
Boy, I wish I had the answer to that, because
Yeah,
I think I could make lots of nonprofits very wealthy if I did.
yeah, I
So,
know.
I think part of it is just we are so caught up in our own lives, and we're very busy people. It's just a society of busyness. And so getting through and asking someone to spend their time on something they care about, often they are going to have to be touched personally. But it's not only them, it's either a friend or a family member or their favorite teacher at school. There's a lot of different ways that organization can reach them. And you mentioned cancer organizations. I would think there's probably even countless cancer organizations.
Sure.
But what I have seen, I have a very good friend of mine I can use as an example. Her son had a very rare form of cancer and unfortunately passed away at the age of 18.
Hmm.
And what she has done with that, tragic loss, is she's created a nonprofit, and her nonprofit makes cancer bags now for families and the patients when they get diagnosed. Because apparently, when you get diagnosed, the doctor gives you you're in the doctor's office, you get the diagnosis, and you are put straight into the hospital.
Hmm.
You don't have anything, you don't have it. She uses my socks, actually, because you don't have socks, you don't have a blanket. She includes coloring books for young kids. And so I think, although we can't change the world, as individuals, when we put efforts like this, you can change people's lives. That sometimes just focusing on changing those, those families that she has affected have, she has changed their lives by
Hmm.
just doing that act of kindness in probably the worst moment of their lives. And so sometimes I think we need to take a step back and just do our best to have just make the world a better place in our community, or for one person today.
Hmm.
And if you're able to make the world a better place for one person today, and then tomorrow, and you continue that for 365 days, like
Hmm.
the impact you can have.
Hmm.
So I think sometimes it's just taking those small steps, and often it is going to be something that we are passionate about, but we help others that are coming into that realm, that are new to it.
Yeah.
And it's a pay it forward, and it's just basic human kindness that
Yeah.
that everybody needs in their worst moments.
So Lisa, let me ask you this. So there, I'm gonna be coming into my elderly age question here, okay? And that's
Okay.
between you and me and people older than us, okay? Now, people like you and me and the elderlies, we kind of struggle to get where we are today, okay? So we value money no matter what, okay? But we also try to do as much as we can, okay? Getting bread, getting milk, and donation this and whatever. But here's a question: all the youngsters, the millennials, now they say, you know what? Why should I give my money away? Because I really worked hard for it. So how do we break that? Because you know what? For their lives, I think they were silver spooned with all the things that we give. All the way down from PlayStation, all the way down to buying clothes from Gap and all the name brands that we used to grow up and we didn't have all those names, okay? Or we dreamt to have those type of names in our lives. So how do we focus these guys, the youngsters? And I'm not saying all, but that is the things that I've seen.
Yeah, no, I actually have a couple of ideas, and I can say yes, I had to save up for my Guess jeans. Like it took me a while to save up for my
Of
Guess jeans
course, of
because
course.
my mom and dad weren't paying that much money for a pair of jeans,
That's
right?
right. That's right.
Um, I think there's a couple of ways. I think when the millennials, and this is happening already, when they start to have children and they have families, they naturally schools ask for money because public
Sure.
schools, at least, and private schools, because
Sure.
they need it, right?
Yep.
And they're supporting your kids.
Yep.
And most of us, when we have kids, what more do we care about than our children?
Yeah.
So I think naturally they're going to get into kind of that understanding of this is what we do to serve our community is we do donate money and we donate our time because we help them. I think for another thing that corporations can do, and my company actually did this when I was 23 when I started working there, and we got the day off to go volunteer at Second Harvest,
Mm.
and you know pack food and give it and hand it out, and it taught me so much. I already had done philanthropy. This has been kind of my passion and background, but for people who haven't, I think just being introduced to that philanthropic lifestyle and seeing the impact that you can have. And I think too, there's an understanding that if you're not willing to part with your money, or you don't have money that you can part with, you can donate your time.
Mm.
And in donating your time, if you can give some of these 3-4 hours on a Saturday, you can have a tremendous impact. Just take trash cleanup, for example.
That's right.
If you go to the local park or the local creek or the beach, depending on where you live, and you spend your Saturday morning doing trash cleanup, you have had a tremendous impact on that community. And so it doesn't always have to be a monetary donation.
Exactly. I mean, I want people to understand. I want you to understand, listeners and watchers, whoever's listening to this show, who's watching this show. It's not always about money. It's always about giving back. If you remember, I don't remember the episode that I came up with, but it was an episode with Care More Be Better. Now search it, search it under my list. Now what we said on that episode is paying forward. You always want to pay forward. Now, no matter what it is, this glasses, you know, if someone needs it, give it. I can get another player. The other person maybe couldn't afford it. Those type of examples. Remember the example that I gave back in that episode is a guy who was in Target in front of me could not pay a certain toy or something, and he had other things that which was necessary, like food and other things that we all need. Toys are necessity according to people who work hard, but he needed to get that for his kid. So what I did is, you know what? I took that on the side and I paid it for him, and I told him, just wait. It was not about cost. Yes, we are crunched with money. It was not that expensive. It was $15, $20. I don't remember, but it was a low amount. But that 15, $20 for me made that guy and the kid enjoy their Christmas. This was like a couple of years back. I don't remember when it was, but I do remember that incident. So it's not always about money, Lisa. It's always about paying forward and making things better.
I agree. And you made such an impact on him and his child that day that I am positive that someday in the future they will be able to make that impact. It will stay with them, right? And they will pay that forward, and they will have that impact on someone else who needs it that day.
Yeah, yeah. So for the Manelia, let me get back to the youngsters again.
Sure.
So now there's a new concept that you came up with is socks, because a lot of people they're looking at different socks, and we talked about this on the phone call.
Mhm.
Uh, Avocados and strawberries and smiley faces, bananas and all that. So where did you come up with this idea, this crazy idea of these socks and everything like that? So explain that.
Okay. Yeah. So I came up with the idea to use the socks as it was a fundraiser. It was a donation incentive because I was running the after school sports program at our middle school,
Mm-hmm.
and we were trying to figure out a way that it was parent funded. And so how a way to incentivize the parents to pay for their child each time they played sports in the fall, winter, and spring.
Mm-hmm.
And so I had the idea for socks, and I thought too, because customizing them to match the uniforms, it's a win-win, right? The kids
Mm-hmm.
can wear them with their uniforms, and there's something that lasts. And the kids played 2 or 3 games a week. So I was hoping too, maybe people would buy more than one.
Mm-hmm.
Another huge advantage is that they're one size fits all. So there was no having to figure out size, all that stuff with t-shirts. And it was so successful. I had been running fundraisers for years. And so I saw people who had never donated turning in $1 wadded up $1 bills, and donations were up 140%.
Mm.
And that was where I just thought, gosh, I wonder if I could offer this. I was so tired of cookie dough and wrapping paper. I was just throwing money at hard earned money. So I didn't have to buy another thing of cookie dough or another thing of wrapping paper. And I thought, this isn't right. This
Yeah.
is what gives fundraising a bad name,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And so that I started the idea with it specifically geared towards fundraising for schools and nonprofits and sports teams, because that was where I saw it. But what we found is that when you're able to customize a sock for anything, you can actually apply that to any industry. So for example, right now, one of my favorite ones is we are working with a small town in Iowa who's trying to save their town pool. I think the town pool was established in 1958 and it needs a refurbishing. And so we made rubber ducky socks. And so they're going to sell their rubber ducky socks to save their town pool and help raise money to refurbish it. So
But I'm gonna ask this question again. With the example that you gave me, you can have T-shirts and shorts and hoodies and jackets. Why socks?
So I tell you what I did with the socks.
Yeah.
I use them as a donation incentive. And so in this particular instance, which a lot of schools or sports teams will have, we ask the parents to donate. I'll just give you the dollars, actually. We asked them to donate $80 per athlete per
Mm-hmm.
sport.
Mm-hmm.
And so what I did, though, is I kind of changed, I added to the marketing message and said, but when you donate $25, you get a free pair of socks. So there were two things that happened at this. A, we made it acceptable to donate less than $80, because what we were
Sure.
seeing was when you're asking for donations and the people, even though you say it's okay, whatever you donate, $5, we'll take it. It wasn't, people who couldn't donate $80 didn't donate. And so by adding this, when you donate 25, made it acceptable to donate less money. And the other thing is I made a $17 profit margin per pair of socks with no one having any idea that we made that. So we raked in money on making that much. And it was just simple because the socks were one size fits all, because we customized them to something that the kids really wanted to have.
Mm.
And the other thing that I thought was fantastic and speaks to, luckily, my community and many communities, was I had families come up to me and say, I don't want anyone on this team not to have socks. So you let me know who can't do it and I will pay their donation. And I think it was, I never saw socks as a community builder, but that's honestly what happened. And because we limited it only to the athletes, I had the principal and all the other students wanted it, but we kept it like special. And that just made it more desirable. And I see that with a lot of my customers, that the socks are community building, because when you're proud of your organization and you're able to sport it,
Yeah.
you're able to wear it,
Yeah.
it creates pride, and socks are part of the way to do that too.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
yeah.
And there's a secret word that they call you, don't they?
Oh, yeah. I have gained the moniker Sock Queen on
See?
LinkedIn.
Yeah.
So it's I was started to be called the Sock Lady, and I envisioned cats everywhere, and I was like, I gotta stop this. I gotta end this dialogue. And so I actually came up with the idea, and people have caught on to the Sock Queen. So
Yeah,
I think that's actually my official
it'll be
title.
like another episode of Auntie Annie, you know, with the pretzel or the maple syrup or something like that.
Exactly. And
So
I'm actually a dog person too, so I didn't want to be surrounded by cats anyways.
yeah,
But the
yeah,
Sock Lady, just, don't you think Sock Queen sounds much better than the Sock Lady?
absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely. You know, or you could say sock diva.
Oh, I could. I'm not a good diva person though. I think I'll just I
Well,
joke that I
well.
self-chlorinated.
I think you run the world with socks, so you are the diva of socks, so you can say
True.
that.
That's very true.
So
If
let's start it. Let's trend it as of now, saying sock diva.
I think if Queen gets old, then I'll flip. If I have to change the narrative again, we'll
Well,
go
I
to
mean,
diva.
I mean, our queen is still around, so I
Yes.
don't know. So, so what else? What else is there for the after next 5 years for Lisa, or I should
That's a
say
good,
the sock queen or the
yeah,
sock
no,
diva?
that's a really good question. I hope to continue to work with global organizations to help them raise money with their custom socks.
Mm,
I ideally for Spirit Sox USA, I would like to work with more corporations as well
mm,
to help them as to use the socks as a branding or promotional item,
mm,
or for events. Employee appreciation would be, anything that's going to benefit them would
mm.
be great. Um, I'm not sure. I could not have told you 5 years ago where I'd be today. So I feel like the journey is going to be interesting because I'm finding too, the more I'm on LinkedIn and the more I spend that 15 minutes to have the phone call, the more directions open up and opportunities open up. And so I don't know what the next one's going to be, but I know I enjoy the journey and am always open to learning and meeting more people and designing as many fun socks as we can.
Yeah, well, I mean, you and I, we met through LinkedIn,
We did.
and then when after that we just chatted and chatted and chatted, and here we are. And I'm so glad that you're here, and I'm very happy that you're here, very honored. The what are the sock lady, sock diva,
Sock
sock
Queen.
queen, all three of them. It's like this is great that
Well,
you're
the
here.
honor's all mine.
Oh, thank you. So, any last words that you have for Back to Basics from the Sock Queen?
I think I would have to say to continue to put your best foot forward with your fun pair of socks.
Hmm. That's it, huh?
Yeah, keep it simple.
Keep it simple. See, that's what it is. Keep it simple. So, Lisa, thank you again for coming on here, and I will call you whenever I need some socks.
Sounds good.
Okay, thank you so much, Lisa, for coming on my show, and God bless and take care. Thank you again.
Thank you very much.
So, guys, we spoke with Lisa today. We had a great time with Lisa. We spoke about socks. We talked about how she does the socks instead of the hoodie. That's too boring anyway. Socks is just exciting. You got prints, you got avocados, as I said, emojis, you got all the other stuff on there. You can get creative. I'm pretty sure you can. And I bet you if you email Lisa on LinkedIn or her phone number or just go to her company's website, I'm telling you, she will have some designs, and you'll take a look at that catalog and see how much that cost, or even small donation would help out too. And I swear to God, this is not a pitch of donation. It's all about awareness, people's awareness. You gotta give happiness to the simplest way, and that's what Back to Basics is all about, guys. So here's a quote of the day, as usual. Girish comes with a quote of the day. No one has ever become poor from giving. No one has ever become poor from giving. Now, just keep that in mind. Now, you can do the smallest thing, what I did also. What I did in Target. Or you can go to Dunkin' Donuts. The car behind them, why don't you just pay like $2-3 just for coffee? That's all. That's all it takes. Just basic stuff, guys. So guys, as usual, as always, the last thing what I say at my episode, you know it, I know it, everyone knows it, even Lisa knows it. Remember, everything in life goes back to basics, and that's what we did today, guys. Guys, take care, God bless. Keep on subscribing me, good or bad, either way, it will make my show stronger, and I will give you, regardless, a quality episode. So guys, as always, take care, God bless, and I'll see you next week. Next week's episode on Back to Basics. You had several, because I've been told that you are a coffee person, and I just want to make sure that we make that clear.
Oh, for sure.
Okay.
Well, definitely.
So, Chelsea, what does Back to Basic mean to you?
I think I love the concept because it's kind of like, what is your foundation, what are your roots, and what is your why, and ensuring that we stay aligned with that, like the basics of what we're doing without getting lost in, the giant picture, but being able to see the intention at the bottom.
So is that a shame that we don't sometimes understand the basic